Hi there. Welcome to the new weekly Ozone radio show coming to you from sunny Bermuda. The show features items of general interest, including health, finances, lifestyle, with a dash of common sense and humor. Your hosts are Robin Trimmingham and Bill Story of the Olderhood Group. We hope you enjoy the show. So let's do this.
Welcome to the Ozone Weekly Radio Show. I'm Robin.
Hi, and I'm Bill.
Today we're chatting about the new year. Now, Bill is under the impression that being from Scotland, only Scotland knows how to celebrate the new year. I'm not so sure I agree, but we're going to let you tell us what that's all about in your mind.
No, I wouldn't say that Scotland's the only place that knows how to celebrate. I think that the point is that Scotland knows how to do it best. I think that's the difference. We have a very unique way of celebrating New Year, which I think is unique in the world. And I mean, that's what makes it, I think, it's the best in the world.
And why is it the best? I know I'm going to regret this, but I'm asking anyway.
I think the traditions of celebrating New Year are, go back. Well, in fact, they actually go back centuries. And I'll explain why. New Year's Eve is affectionately known as Hogmanay. That's Hogmanay, Hogmanay.
Of course it is.
Yeah, I mean, in Scotland, everybody talks about, how you're going to celebrate Hogmanay. They don't actually say how you're going to celebrate New Year's Eve. It's always Hogmanay. And there's always been debate as to where does that word come from. We understand the idea behind it, it's New Year's Eve, but where does the word come from? And there's one school of thought that says Hogmanay is a word that comes from French, meaning, which was Hogmanay or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But that word in French meant, or maybe still does mean gala day. And in actual fact, it started with Mary Queen of Scots back in 1560 or something like that. So we've kind of had that word built into our DNA, all of our life.
Well, I like the idea that it's a day-long celebration. I wouldn't say that we don't have New Year's in Canada where I was born, because of course we do. I mean, there's parties and there's fireworks, and things like that. But I wasn't really raised in a culture that celebrated this as the be-all and end-all event. Yeah. For me, I think New Year's is more about a time of reflection and a time of looking forward. Now, don't get me wrong. I am so not into making New Year's resolutions. I don't understand them because, you set yourself up for failure in my mind if you actually are trying to make a list of unrealistic resolutions or changes in your life that you're going to make in 30 days or less. On the other hand, there is a very famous children's book that a lot of children in Canada have heard of, and it's called Anne of Green Gables. It's a story about a little girl in the 1800s in Prince Edward Island. And there was a quote in the book that I still remember from my childhood: "Tomorrow is a new day with no mistakes in it." And that's why she always liked tomorrow as a little girl. And I've always related to that idea that there was no problem that wasn't fixable, that there was no situation that wasn't solvable, and that tomorrow was an opportunity to get it right. So I always like the idea of the new year because the new year is full of possibility in my mind.
Well, I recognize all of that, but you made one mistake there, I'm afraid. You referred to the New Year celebrations in Scotland as being a one-day event. No.
Oh, yeah, no. Of course.
No. No,
let me guess. It's 1 day to have it and 4 days to recover from it.
Yeah, well, it's 1 day at a time, basically. That's how it works. Actually, interestingly enough, Christmas Day up until probably about the 1950s, etc. I can remember this as a wee boy, that Christmas Day was not a public holiday in Scotland. We just essentially ignored it. People went to work on Christmas Day. Now, when it came to New Year's Day, there was always a 2-day, maybe sometimes 3-day holiday. You know, you didn't go to work for 2 or 3 days, as you say, something to recover, granted. But no, Christmas Day was just a non-event, etc. Now, it was celebrated, I suppose, in the family. But in terms of you know, the work or going to work, that just didn't happen. I think it's a throwback to some old religious concept or something like that, that, you know, Christmas Day was not a celebration day, that you really had to work or so. Anyway, whatever sort of thing. But New Year's Day, yeah, that was, I mean, you would start breaking down at work from probably midday on New Year's Eve or Hogmanay. And then you would wait until what we called the bells, which was the church bells in the town, ringing at 12, you know, ding, 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 all this kind of stuff. And then all hell broke loose, to be perfectly honest. It was, I mean, it was a tremendous time in, you know, in Scotland, still is. I mean, it's hugely celebrated. Now, obviously, with COVID situations, there are sort of street parades and street events and things like that don't take place now. But there was always a huge, you know, celebration parade, etc., in Edinburgh, the capital of Scotland. You know, as you can see, I'm wearing my tartan scarf here. Some people call it plaid. Never quite understood that, but nonetheless. But no, I mean, the Edinburgh New Year celebration event would attract 10, 15, 20,000 people on the streets of Edinburgh. So yeah, I mean, it's still a very big celebration in Scotland, and frankly, for Scots around the world. I think we all look forward to New Year. And for some of the reasons you're talking about, you know, you get out with the old and, you know, bring in the new. So, but as I say, I think that there is something special about it in New Year in Scotland, because I think we make it special, and it's the people that make it extra special, perhaps.
Well, you know, of course, we can't really end this without talking about the one really famous Bermuda New Year's Day tradition, because everybody likes a parade. And one of the coolest things that I think does happen on this island, maybe a little diminished at the moment given the circumstances, is going and finding the gombays playing. Now, for those of you who aren't from Bermuda, a gombe is somewhere between a religious and a cultural tradition, and they dance to the beat of drummers, and they wear very bright, very unique, colorful costumes, and there are families on this island where it's a family tradition that all the men, and these days maybe the occasional girl, participate. Anyway, on New Year's Day, the gombays go out and they dance in the laneways, particularly in small neighborhoods and in places like St. George's, where I live. And I'll never forget being out walking on New Year's Day, and I could hear drumming in the distance, and I was going through the lane, and all of a sudden I rounded the corner, and there were 4 of the drummers, no dancers, but just the drummers walking along, and they were dancing, they were drumming to the point where I would say they were almost entranced. And it was absolutely cool, wonderful thing to encounter.
The one thing I would add, though, before we close up here, is to explain to people about what in Scotland we call the first foot, which again still happens today. The first foot, and the first foot tradition is that after the bells, so in other words, after midnight, okay, then somebody, usually a tall, dark-haired male, okay, comes over the threshold of your house. He's the first foot of the new year.
Okay.
It's a very strong tradition, to be honest, because what would have happened prior to the bells in the household would be that you would have cleaned out the ashes from the fire. If you recall, we've already talked about, coal fires in most of the houses back then, maybe to some extent still now. So the house would be cleaned, everything would be spruced up, and the ashes from the coal fire would be thrown out. They'd be taken out before midnight. Okay. So, in other words, there was nothing happening with the coal fire. There was no coal there. So, the first foot, when he steps over the threshold, he carries with him a piece of coal and a bottle of whiskey. Okay, so the coal is to get your new fire started for the new year, and well, you can sort of imagine what the whiskey's for.
To warm your heart, I'm quite sure.
Yeah, no, but I mean that tradition is still very, very strong today. The first foot that you couldn't have anyone other than a tall, dark-haired male. Coming across, even in today's, cultural environment that we're in, the first foot in Scotland will still be, a male with dark hair and whatever sort of thing. But then, always just after the bells, once the bells have rung, once the first foot has come in, and now you're going to have a party. Now the drinks are going to flow. Now you're going to have a party. Now you're going to have music, and whether it's accordion music or pipe band music. Or I remember a neighbour of ours, again when I was a wee boy, 2 doors away from us, the son, the younger lad, he played the piano magnificently. Played the piano, so we would have a really good sing song. But the first music that you would do after midnight in the brand new year would be to sing Auld Lang Syne. Should old acquaintance be forgotten?
Oh, he's singing, everybody.
Hey, listen. Hey, wait a minute. There's no extra charge for this. There's no extra charge. That was written by Robert Burns, who was a national poet of Scotland back in the late 1700s, and is still the anthem of the world, around the world at this time of year. Auld Lang Syne. A lot of people say it's Auld Lang Syne. No, it's not. It's an S. Auld Lang Syne. Should old acquaintance be forgot? So there you go. I'm sure I could go on for ages telling you about some of the stories about me, my family, etc., and some of the antics that we got up to over many years when I still lived in Scotland, because some of those stories are truly interesting, shall we say. Very funny stuff at New Year. So there you go. New Year in Scotland.
Well, thank you, Bill. I'm sure everybody's found that very educational. If you're watching this before the new year, we wish you all the best for the year to come. And if you're watching this sometime after the new year, remember, tomorrow is a brand new day with no mistakes in it. We'll see you again next week. Take care, everybody.
Have a good new year.